Here we go. So, welcome everybody to the next instalment of the King of the Wizard Talk Cheese and Wine. We've got a special treat today. We're both actually in the same room at the same time. So this is good to do this in person for a change.
Yeah, I've just had a lovely weekend in York, and Stephen's not too far from York. So on our way home, we're stopping in to give you this in-person episode.
Yeah, very good.
Right.
So today we have got two wines and we've got four cheeses to pair them with. So Ian, why don't you tell us about the wines we've got today?
Yes, so we've got, starting off, we have a New World, a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough, a company called Churton. So a few weeks ago we had Sancerre, and the idea behind the Churton was to try and contrast that Sauvignon Blanc grape and give an idea of how, when you start to do it in a New World, a slightly warmer climate, what additional flavours you can get from that. And then something a little unusual, we have here a Coteaux du Layon, 1985, from Moulin Touché. And the idea here is I wanted to show another sweet wine. You know, we had a Sancerre at Christmas, but show a sweet wine where it's not as full on, not quite as rich as a Sancerre, certainly not as sweet, and with different flavors in the background as well. So, not as sweet, not quite so rich, but more fruity, and see how that goes with the cheese as well.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that one in particular when you mentioned that. That sounds very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Very good. So briefly on the cheeses today. So working across from here, we have the Buffalo Blue from Shepherd's Purse in North Yorkshire, which is a really creamy blue made with buffalo milk. We've got Havod organic cheddar from Wales. We have got some Beaufort, classic Alpine cheese. And then the last one here is called Bybrook, which is a very new British cheese, which is again made as sort of an Alpine style. Lots going on there. And the first time I've tried this one, so I'm really excited to try this one as well. We've only had one batch of this in the shop, so really keen to try those as well. So I've gone for a selection of ones, a couple of favourites from the shop, and as I say, something brand new as well.
Great. Right, should we dive into this Sauvignon Blanc then?
Absolutely.
So like the Bybrook, this is the first time I'm tasting this wine. I bought it on a recommendation. It's been sitting in a cellar for a couple of years, and thought I would get it out and try it today. So Churton, Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc 2019. So, you know, looking at the colour, it's kind of what you'd expect for a Sauvignon, nice and pale, a little bit green still. That nose, we're expecting, you know, with the Sauvignon Blanc, it's always going to have some aroma, a bit aromatic, some herbs in there, and those are there.
Yeah, I can tell it's a Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, you can.
I'm not great at wines from aroma, but I can.
No, that's got a fairly classic. But there's a couple of other things going on that nose, which I think we're also going to get on the palate, which is, as well as that citrus flavour for the fruits that you can detect, there are just a little bit of hints of stone fruit there, a bit more peach, maybe a touch of melon as well. Yeah, but you wouldn't normally get from Sancerre unless it was a particularly warm year. Don't think this was a particularly warm year in New Zealand, so we're not getting much in the way of tropical fruits on top of that stone fruit. But let's have a go. So, as you'd expect for Sauvignon, Sauvignon really holds on to its acidity very well, and you've got that crisp acidity there. I mean, my mouth is still watering after tasting that. There is, you know, good lemon and lime citrus fruits as you'd expect. Definitely on, and those are definitely to the fore. I think this must have been a lighter year in New Zealand. Because while there is a little bit of hint of peach, touch of apricot maybe, a little bit of melon, it's not that forward, it's behind the citrus fruit, and really I'm not getting any tropical fruit, no pineapple, no nothing like that. But yes, a little bit of a contrast to the Sancerre. You know, you can get New Zealand Kiwi Sauvignon Blancs which have more of a contrast, have more of that tropical fruit going on. This is just giving a hint of that stone fruit on top. You also can get some Sauvignons which are a little bit bigger, a little bit more weight. This one's quite nice and light and refreshing. Got a little contrast to the Sancerre there.
Nice, very nice contrast.
Right, should we give a view on the Coteaux du Layon then?
Yeah, let's do that.
So Coteaux du Layon, it's from the Loire, so we're staying in the old world again. It's when we think of the Loire, and people immediately start thinking of Sancerre, we start thinking about Sauvignon Blanc. This is not Sauvignon Blanc. This is Chenin Blanc. So Chenin is another wine famous in Sancerre. It comes in all kinds of styles, sparkling through to dry table wine and sweet wine. To make the sweet wine, it's left on the vines a little bit longer, and you try to get a bit of botrytis going on it. It's on the Layon hills, so it's up above the river Layon. You get a little bit of humidity coming in those as autumn creeps in, and you can start getting that botrytis going. Like Sauvignon, it holds on to its acidity. It is really highest acidic grape, and that allows it to mature. That's why, here we've got a wine from 1985.
The colour's amazing.
And they can go on longer. This wine will probably go on longer yet.
And just to put that, there's the camera, if I can see it, that.
Yeah.
That colour is wonderful.
Yeah. So it's much more of an amber.
Golden amber. Yeah.
Amber colour than the gold you get from a Sauternes. On the nose, there's an awful lot going on that's developed through that wine. There's lots of caramel, toffee apple, and Chenin Blanc for me is great. Comparing it to Sauvignon, whereas Sauvignon is all about that acidity, and with it the acidic fruits, citrus fruits. Chenin Blanc has huge acidity, but the flavour is apples and pears, and that apple and pear is still there. But with that maturity, that time in the barrel to allow tertiary flavours to ferment, and a little bit of flavour coming from the botrytis as well. The overwhelming aroma for me, it just reminds me of toffee apples.
Definitely.
Going around the fairground and smelling those toffee apples being made.
My wife made some apple butter a few weeks ago with some apple that we had from the garden last year, and that kind of cooked in the oven on low for about 20 hours. So that's the smell I'm getting from this. Beautiful.
So on the palate, it's not as heavy and rich as a Sauternes. It's not coating your mouth the way a Sauternes would. It's a little bit more of a medium weight. Sweetness is there, but it's not as overpowering as well. It's a lot lighter. I'd call this medium sweet personally. Again, bags of that apple flavour, a bit of pear in there as well, and that caramel sitting on top of it is toffee apple in a glass.
It is, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
It's lovely. As you say, it's not quite as viscous as as a regular sort of dessert one would be. But that's really good.
No. It's a reasonable alcohol, 13.5%, but it's just not got so much sugar in there to make it that viscous. Right.
Shall we see how they get on with the cheeses?
Let's do that. Let's go. Which cheese are we starting with?
I'm tempted to start with the Bybrook, the new one.
Let's go for it.
So let's just see what we've got here. So this is made down in Wiltshire, and it is made with Jersey cow milk. And one thing you notice with Jersey cheeses is that the Jersey cow milk has got a higher fat content, so you get much yellower, creamier looking cheeses to that. This has been described as a bit of an ugly duckling from the outside. I mean, the rind is not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but actually inside, look, it's got that lovely pattern of holes in the paste there.
Yeah.
And this is made with Jersey cow milk. It's pasteurized. And there we go, diving a little bit there. See what we've got.
That's good. That's okay.
So in terms of description, I'd say this describes anything from a sort of an unripened Reblochon to a Tom Piranesi to a young Emmental. It's got that springy texture to it.
Yes.
Slightly nutty notes on the paste. I'm just going to go for the rind.
Yeah, as you were describing it, when you talked about Emmental, like it sort of, and talk about the other cheeses, I can taste that coming through. It's not like it's a copy of those. It's got it's its own cheese. It just has some characteristics of those.
Yes. Yeah. Very distinctive.
Let's go that again.
I imagine this would probably melt quite nicely as well.
I hadn't appreciated that the fat content had an impact on the colour. So the more fat there is, the yellower the cheese will be.
That's true, yes.
Right.
I can add to that.
Mm.
It also obviously has a lot more creaminess to it.
Yeah.
And the same is true with the buffalo. The buffalo milk, that's a white one. Buffalo milk's got a good fat content as well, which gives it an extra creaminess to it.
Mm.
That's really good.
That is. I like that.
So I gather this is a very small scale production. So we were very fortunate to get a couple of cheeses in, and it might be one that when we have it, it'll be there, but maybe we'll struggle to get consistent supply of it. But that's a really nice cheese to seek out if you see it anywhere else.
Yeah, that's when we have a little blackboard at the back of the shop saying,
yeah,
it's back in.
Yeah, that's it. Specials of the week. That's
Yeah.
really good. So yeah, the lady that makes it, she did cheese making in Europe and in America for a time. I think that's the UK.
Right.
And they're setting up making cheese down in Wiltshire.
Mm.
And they've made 2 or 3 other cheeses down there. The Old Cheese Room is the name of their dairy.
All right.
And yeah, seek it out. We're going to let's try this with the wines.
Let's go for it.
We'll go for a bit with the.
So I'm looking at my Sauvignon Blanc next to the Coteaux du Layon. It looks almost see-through next to it.
Yeah, there's a real difference there, isn't there? So
amazing.
yeah, so
Right.
we'll try the Sauvignon first.
Yes, let's give it a go. Mm. Right. Right, for me, on that, the cheese is the acidity is obviously countering the fat in the cheese. And what that's doing is then leaving you with a load and load of citrus sitting on your mouth. You get a real burst of citrus. For some reason, the sort of stone fruit kind of disappears a little bit, and just, and I think it's because it's not that it's gone, but the citrus is just lifted up and overpowers everything else. The cheese is nice and strong and holds its own.
Yeah,
that
the two sit together fairly well.
Yeah.
So.
Mm. Yes, makes the wine even more refreshing.
Good match.
Yeah. Right. This might be more of a challenge though.
Yeah.
Let's see how those apple flavors go with the Coteaux. So Coteaux du Layon, Côte, you see the word Côte and Coteaux. In France, Côte means hill. Coteaux means collection of hills or range of hills. So this wine is made on, Coteaux du Layon comes from the hills along the Layon River. So it's quite a wide area. So it's not like Côte Rôtie in the Rhone, where it's one particular hill, just a range of them. Right. Mm. Mm. That's interesting.
I don't think it changes the wine very much.
No, I don't think it changes either. I think they just sit there surviving.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's not, they're not elevating each other,
No.
but they're not competing or clashing.
No. Yeah, so I think the wine is carrying on doing what the wine does. So is the cheese. The cheese hasn't really disappeared in the background.
Yeah, they both come out equal parts on that one, I would say.
Yeah.
Very good.
Right. Let's get a little bit more of the Sauvignon ready for round two.
So the second cheese, we have some Beaufort. This is a very small piece of what would be a sort of 40 kilo or so wheel.
40 kilos?
Yeah.
So you get your workout in the cheese industry.
If you take the whole cheeses, I mean, we can buy small sections of it. Certainly, it gets to Christmas and we're getting whole wheels of Beaufort on Conte. It can take 2 of us to maneuver them around until you start to chop them up.
Wow.
You can't really see from this small piece, but one of the characteristics of the Beaufort is that the outer, the rind on the sides has a kind of concave design to it, which is designed historically to be able to help it to be strapped to donkeys for transportation, so that the straps can sort of sit within the rind of the cheese without damaging, so that it can be transported without falling off and being damaged. So whether that's something which now, like a lot of these older sort of traditions, is something which is just kept as a feature.
Oh, of course.
I don't think there's a great deal of donkey transportation going on these days.
No, you'd have thought not.
That historical thing is still there, which is nice.
But I can imagine that though, because I think I was saying earlier, when I've been skiing, we drive down the mountain. Depending on where we are, if you drive down the mountain, you end up coming back through the towns at the bottom there. And I can't remember the name of the town. They'll probably come to me at some point, where the Beaufort exchange is. So everyone's Beaufort comes in and then goes out. So you can imagine everyone coming down from the mountains with their cheese to take it into the town in order to sell it, and then go home without their cheese, but with a lot of money in it.
Yeah, hopefully. And you can imagine that the size of those cheeses, sort of 4 kilos, the cheese makers are making maybe only 1 or 2 at a time, and they'll be making them up the mountains with the milk from their animals, and then bringing them down to the cheese exchanges, either for maturation or for onwards, brokerage and sale. So a lot of them are working that kind of cooperative approach, because if you're only making 1 or 2 cheeses at a time, there's no mileage in having your own maturation facilities and distribution network. So it's a nice collaborative way of making the cheese and getting it out there.
Yeah. So for those of you skiers out there, when you're in the Haute-Savoie, so you're skiing in sort of Les Arcs, Val d'Isère, Three Valleys, those areas, then you're in Beaufort country.
Wonderful cheeses there. And so let's dig into this one. Wonderful distinctive aroma in this as well.
It is, yeah. Reminds me of walking into so many restaurants while I've been on those holidays. And so how long has this one been aged for, do you think?
This feels like it's probably aged for about 12 months or so.
It's still lovely and
fairly young.
Yeah.
I have found with these style of cheeses, they'll mature them on for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and sometimes beyond.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a sweet spot where, to my taste, they're at their best.
Right.
And it's somewhere between 12 and 24 months. I've had a contact that was sort of 3 or 4 years old that someone brought me a piece of from France a few years ago, and it was very nice, but it was just a bit too far.
Yeah. So lovely saltiness to this one immediately. But the thing I remember about Beaufort, which has come here, is there's this taste that builds, this kind of aftertaste that comes in on the side of your mouth, almost like a little bit of umami taste to it.
Yeah, definitely is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as you say, it builds the more you have. We have one little sort of taste. It almost seems quite mild to start with, but it does. It builds, and starts to set my jaw off a little bit in a really good way.
Yeah.
And this is one of those classic melting cheeses as well, as it? So we're talking fondue and raclette and all those kind of things.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect après-ski food.
Right.
Well, let's see how we do with the wines.
Yes. Right. Let's see. I think we're going to see a pattern with this Sauvignon, that it's going to be the same thing. The cheese is going to elevate that citrus character of Sauvignon. It's doing it again today. One thing I do like is that aftertaste of the Beaufort with this wine comes through quite well, and they complement each other well.
Yeah. They sit really nicely, and the cheese doesn't, as I said, that aftertaste just amplifies slightly. Maybe just because I'm eating more of the cheese, but
it's building. But no, it sits nicely with the wine. The wine sits just, the acidity is there with the cheese to sort of strip away some of that fattiness. But it's a nice balance. The citrus sits on top of that umami aftertaste quite well. Almost, I can imagine if you had the cheese without letting that taste build and having the wine, you'd almost think it was an aftertaste of the wine. Right. Now I'm interested here because of that slightly more saltiness of the Beaufort. I'm going to want to see what that does with this sweeter wine.
That does change things.
Yeah. That I think is yeah, that's for me. There's a combination of the salt and the fat and the cheese, which is stripping away what remains of the acidity in the Coteaux.
Yeah, to soften it, isn't it?
And giving you, basically just his pure apple and pure caramel coming through. I'm
losing the aftertaste of the Beaufort as well.
Yeah, that's gone, hasn't it? So the cheese is elevating the wine, but it's the wine sitting on top of the Beaufort a little bit, which is surprising.
Yeah, it's an interesting change, a good one, but yeah, the cheese is kind of definitely falling away on that one.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Okay, very good.
Now then,
so cheese number 3. This is called Havod, which is an organic cheddar from Wales, made on Holden Farm, and they're sort of certified organic biodynamic in terms of how they treat their animals, but also how they treat the land, because of course the cows are grazing, so everything has to be, boxes have to be ticked in terms of what they put onto the ground and into the soil and stuff like that. So the result is this lovely mature cheddar, mature about 18 months or so.
Now that does look, just on appearance, that looks quite nice and mature. It looks like it's hard enough for you to bang in nails with.
So bring that close to the camera as well, so it's got a nice, when you compare it to the likes of a supermarket block of even mature cheddar. This looks, I guess it looks older, more interesting. You just know it's going to have lots of flavour in there.
And these white veins that you said, what's that caused by? Is that from cutting through?
So that is just a bit of natural cracking in the cheese. So
as it matures, it cracks.
And occasionally what you'll find out there's a little bit of a fob here on the edge, and a little bit of natural blue might start to creep in and creep across the cheese. And we do find that with some of these mature cheddars that will have a bit of blue in there.
Wow.
And it's one of those things that kind of splits opinion. It's perfectly safe to eat. It's nice. It adds a little bit more flavour again. But aesthetically, some customers will come and go, oh no, I don't want that.
It's mouldy.
It's mouldy. It's going off. It's not. But there's an acceptance that that's not for everyone.
No.
Personally, I think it's really good. It just adds even more to the party.
Yeah.
But so there we go.
That's a really good looking.
Yeah, we've had this one. We brought this one back onto the counter earlier this year. We had a customer vote us to. We rotate 2 or 3 different cheddars around from time to time. We've had a lot of Western cheddar on for a while. We also had Pitchfork for a while, so we decided it was time to rest one and bring something else in. And the Havod won through, which is great, because I can see as our customers becoming very well educated about cheese, and there's no one saying, "Oh, Cathedral City or Baby Bell" or something like that.
Have you ever carried Cathedral City? Not there's anything wrong with.
There's nothing wrong with it. I've had this debate in the past with other people where they will say, what mass-produced cheddars do really well is they're very good at consistently producing the same thing to a very specific recipe. And you could open a pack, you could open 100 different packs and they all taste exactly the same, which obviously with these kind of cheeses that's different. But that's not taking anything away from the skill involved in creating that consistency all the time.
And I'll put my hand up and say you quite often find Cathedral City in my fridge. But I would also quite happily go up to my local cheese shop and spend a bit of money on some good cheese.
Absolutely. I have been caught in my supermarket locally buying that kind of cheese, but it's mainly for the children and stuff like that. So
if you're cooking with it as well.
And I think maybe this is half of the households in the UK will have a block of that, something similar in their fridge. So can't argue that. And that affects the recipe that they use, because obviously they want a recipe that's going to have mass appeal. So it tends to be slightly sweeter than these kind of farmhouse cheddars, because they've done flavour profiling of the palates of the people that are buying it, and that's where they want to be.
Right. Let's dive into this one.
Anyway, enough about those. A couple of bits with the rind on. We'll go for a bit without. There we go. So jump in.
I'll take that one. Oh, that's very good. So it's definitely got that cheddar. It smells like cheddar.
Yeah. It's got a crunch to it as well.
It does. And sort of dryness almost.
Yeah.
But, and a saltiness that builds through and spreads across your tongue.
Not too much sweetness in there.
No. Definitely not. Oh. And a lovely aftertaste that's building up nicely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go with rind. It's the same but more.
So on this cheese, some cheddars I found the rind can get a bit bitter. This just amplifies the flavour that you're getting across the face.
Right, I've had a bit. There was a bit of fault there with that, and I could see a touch of blue in there.
Yeah,
and it just gives that steeliness, that metallic geranium flavour.
Yeah, just a touch.
It's quite nice. It's quite unusual with the cheddar.
Really good just by itself. Fantastic. Apart from Plowman's, or you know, put in a nice crusty baguette with some pickle or something.
Oh yeah.
Some gherkins just to cut through.
Yeah.
Right.
Wine time.
Wine time, let's see. Get a bit more.
Wow. So it's the same thing again, where you know the pattern is there for the Sauvignon, and we get that burst of citrus. But this time, I think it's doing quite a lot for the cheese. That flavour of the cheese that comes through over time is being lifted.
Definitely, I agree.
Almost makes the cheese taste a little bit sweeter as well. Why not almost? It does.
Yeah. And Sauvignons is generally a good match for cheddars. Far match.
Oh, I believe that. How do we have this? But that is one of the sort of unknown rules. If there are, our first rule about cheese and wine is there are no rules. Do what you like,
Absolutely.
enjoy yourself. But if you know, people naturally want to put red wines with cheeses, and I would say if you want to do that, fine. But try whites. Whites are so much better with cheeses, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that. I'd also say as well that beers as well. Sort of hoppy IPAs would go really well with this kind of cheese as well. People might think, oh, we are going to have cheese and beer. It's got to be a real heavy, dark stout or something like that, which is true, can work with some cheeses.
Yeah,
but equally,
that's good. I like that. Oh, I've never used these kind of cheese knives before. I'm clearly an amateur.
well, these are. I was given one of these little hatchets a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
quite satisfying to use.
Very Marco Pio wine. Very good. Right, let's try it with the Coteaux du Layon. I'm hoping, because when I was a kid, I always used to grab the cheddar from the fridge with an apple and sit there and have those together. So let's see how those apple flavors work. Right. Right, for me, the cheddar and the Coteaux du Layon have a similar interaction to the Beaufort and the Coteaux du Layon.
I would agree.
The cheese is really elevating the wine, but the difference is for the Beaufort, I got a lot more of the toffee end of the toffee apple. For the cheddar, I'm getting a lot more of the apple, end of the toffee apple.
Definitely.
So I don't know why that would be. I suspect it's just that salty aftertaste from the cheddar is sitting on top of the toffee a little bit, but it's that's quite a nice combination.
Yeah, it's a nice combination.
Yeah.
And as you say, you've got that kind of cheddar apple dynamic going on, which just works really well. Good bedfellows.
Look at that.
Also worth mentioning, of course, that particular things like these farmhouse cheddars, cider is always a really good pairing for them as well.
Oh yes,
maybe look at that at some point.
Yeah, Could have another. I can feel something coming up. I have to go and find some good ciders.
It'll be a challenge for you.
Right.
So, cheese number 4. This is Buffalo Blue. Look at this. Look at this up close. It's wonderful bluey green marbling on this cheese. Made by Shepherd's Purse up in Thirsk in North Yorkshire.
Right.
And they make quite a few mostly blue cheeses. They do Yorkshire Blue, Harrogate Blue. This is, as I say, made with buffalo milk rather than cow's milk, sheep's milk. So they don't have their own buffalo on the farm, but they have an arrangement where they bring it in from one of the handful of buffalo milk producers in the UK.
So it is UK buffalo milk?
It is, yes, right. Indeed, yeah.
And so buffalo milk instead has a higher fat content.
That's right, which gives it a bit extra creaminess to it. And this is, again, a returning cheese to our counter, very popular, very creamy, nice flavour. So it's not too strong.
Yeah.
It's not the mildest blue out there, but it's certainly not at the Danish blue end of sort of metallic steeliness.
Yes.
So
it doesn't look like, I mean, I wouldn't, it definitely doesn't look like Danish blue. Also, it doesn't look like things like Roquefort or Italian. If I was looking at it and I was uneducated, I'd be saying it doesn't look too dissimilar to a Stilton. But
yeah, it's the pattern of veining is different actually to a Stilton, which I guess was to do with the style and the bacteria they use. But it's got a wonderful smell, this cheese.
Oh yeah. That's great.
There's a real hint of what's to come.
That's like that's I'm sorry, this is meant in a good way. It smells like really ripe set of trainers.
Yeah.
Socks. It's got that.
Yeah. Well, there has been some signs to show that it's similar bacteria going on. You get if you swab an old pair of trainers and creaminess in there.
But the blue is there's nothing metallic about that blue flavour.
No. This is a cheese that I'll offer to someone that says they don't like blue cheese. Yeah. Because in my experience, generally they've had a Danish blue or something. Yeah. Really metallic and sharp. And that's kind of the perception people have about blue cheeses. Yeah. When we get people coming in saying, we want something really stinky, I think that what they mean is something really strong flavoured and metallic. Yeah. But pushing the direction of this is just really, really easy going. But there's lots going on in the flavour there. So there's for a blue cheese, it's really rich. And that's the buffalo in there. Yeah. It just sits nicely on your tongue, covers it like a nice warm blanket. It's got that lovely rich fattiness to it. But that flavour coming through from the blue in it, and I don't know whether it's the particular mold in here or whatever, but that complete absence of a metallic nature, and just that lovely biscuity flavour, it's gorgeous. It's lovely, isn't it? And some of that's to do with the maturation process with blue cheeses. They will be lots of more metallic up to about 8 to 10 weeks, and then that softens away. And you get sort of a sweet spot where they are really good, and then as they get even older, then that starts to return and they go a bit more challenging, shall we say? Yes. So there we go. Let's jump into this with the wines. I'm particularly interested to see how this is going to go with the second wine. Yeah, I think when I saw the cheeses come out, I had that combination in my mind as well. So hopefully we're finishing. Well, in the past we've been surprised. Yes, that doesn't always work, does it? But yes, we have. Well, let's start with the Sauvignon. Oh, that takes a lot of the acidity away from the wine, doesn't it? It does, yeah. And the cheese is very much still there. Yeah. The acidity is gone. I think that this wine is struggling to sit on top of it. Yeah, it's kind of a bit lost, I think. Yeah, there's not a big burst of citrus there. No. Not much at all, really. But it does. It's amazing the effect it can have, isn't it? Having a mug. It's not bad. It's not clashing. No, but the wine is completely softened away. Yeah, totally anonymized. Yeah. But then if you take another sip without the cheese, it's back.
Yeah,
It's there.
it starts coming
It's not
through.
hanging around.
No, and the aftertaste of the cheese is again giving you, the acidity doesn't always come through, but there's a little bit more citrus there. It's quite soft. All right, let's go for the biggie.
The one
So,
we've both been looking forward to.
yeah, so natural, what should be a natural conversation, a sweeter wine with a salty blue cheese. Let's try it.
That doesn't disappoint.
So yes, it's any acid is gone. So you've got that beautiful toffee apple coming through. Quite a lot of the toffee's back compared to against the cheddar. And the aftertaste of the cheese, that biscuity flavour of the cheese is sitting nicely with it. That is quite a pleasant combination.
The volume of that has increased ever so slightly as well.
Yeah. So I think for once our expectations have
been confirmed. Yeah. So nice.
That's yeah. I mean, that saltiness of the cheese is lifting up the fruitiness of the wine. But the cheese, the biscuity element of the cheese is sitting there in the background as well, not going away and working really well with that toffee and that apple flavour. Wow, that's a good combination.
What I like with both of them, apart and together, is that neither of them are particularly heavy or huge in terms of flavours. Like I said, this is slightly lighter than a Sauvignon or a dessert one would be. And same with the blue.
Yes.
And they just fit so nicely.
Yeah.
It's maybe dangerous because I can imagine he's been drinking quite a bit of this without feeling overfaced or.
Right. That's good. Right then.
That's a silly question, but I suppose we need to put these in order.
We do.
We know which one's going to be. The first one.
Yes.
First place, I think, will be awarded to the blue and the.
Yeah.
That one. How about you?
So definitely my top choice there. And I was looking at it from the moment we started looking at the wines we had and the cheeses you had. I wanted to see this blue with the Coteaux du Layon, and they work so well together that I would quite happily sit there and polish those off.
That's a Sunday evening right there, isn't it?
It is. One that surprised me was well, actually the two that surprised me were the Beaufort and the cheddar with the Coteaux du Layon. I thought they worked surprisingly well, but also I was slightly surprised by the difference between them as well, where one was the Beaufort was amplifying the toffee elements of the wine, and the cheddar was amplifying the apple flavors in the wine. So that was an interesting combination as well, and also one that I wouldn't have naturally picked out. But I think I would probably go for, it's my second choice, the Sauvignon and the cheddar.
Yeah, that was just a nice, as you put it so well, sort of reminiscent of the old sort of childhood memories of cheddar with a fresh apple. Yeah, went really well. I thought they went well too. I loved all the cheeses. I thought the Bybrook was lovely to try that. I think just because it's a lot more gentle in terms of flavour, struggled to sit up with the wines, but it didn't clash with them.
No, no clashes here.
No clashes at all. That's really good. So no flavour nightmares. So there we go.
Right.
So another successful pairing and tasting, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah. And yes, remember to try some white wines with your cheeses if your habit is red. And if you can seek out Coteaux du Layon, you won't be disappointed.
I'll be looking out for that very soon myself. But yeah, if anyone's got anything they'd like to see us try, then drop some comments in below, and we'll be back with some more very soon. Maybe some cider, something a bit different. We'll see how that goes. We're getting into, well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. It's only just spring, isn't it? But, as we head towards summer, and maybe some ciders will go really nicely. That's great. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.